Today we're making another character from the Toy Story franchise, one that only got a couple seconds of screen time and is simply known as Dolly. You'll want to start off with some peach-colored socks, and we'll begin by cutting out the head, making sure we do so with 2 layers of fabric so that we can sew them together. We also want to make sure we choose a thread that matches the color as closely as possible. You'll want to sew as close to the perimeter as you can to minimize the sewing lines that we have to hide. Once you've sewed it together, you want to flip it inside out to hide as many of the seam lines as you can, and then you're on to stuffing. You want to make sure that you use small pieces of stuffing. As you can see, I'm sewing the head closed, and you won't be able to do that if you overstuff the head. So take your time, go slowly, and gauge if you're overstuffing at any point during the process. We've now got a pack of these wooden dowels from the dollar store, which are really just a pack of wooden sticks, and we're going to use these as the neck piece of our dolly. And all we've done here is wrap the neck in the same fabric we used to make the head, and then stuffed it into the bottom of the head. And now we just have to cut off the excess fabric at the back. We're not too worried about it looking perfect because remember, there's going to be some long blonde hair covering this whole section. And that'll be our next target. We've got some nice golden fabric, but as you can see on the computer screen, Dolly's got some tricky shaped hair, and we're gonna have to come up with some pretty funky techniques if we want to recreate this at home. Challenge accepted. Tracing out a small circle onto the gold fabric, we're going to want to make sure this is also 2 layers, just like the head was. Once you've cut it out, place it on the fabric, trace it, and do it again. We need 2 of these. We're going to sew these pieces together, leaving a small opening at the top for stuffing. And once we're done sewing, we will do just that. We're going to stuff them. We want to recreate the cartoony shape that she has on the front of her hair, and I think these 2 small lumps will do just that. But we can't get ahead of ourselves because that's only one part of the hair, and the next part arguably will be even harder, with a very particular shape. Once again, we'll be tracing onto 2 layers of fabric, and we drew a rough estimate of how we want this hair to look, but it's approximate. Don't stress about it too much. Even the little curls I drew on the ends are pointless, and were eventually cut off. We cut the shape out, sewed it together, left the top open for stuffing, but we have a different piece that we're going to be using for stuffing. Another material that's very affordable, a pack of paper clips. I figured we should go with yellow so that if light hits the toy, you don't see anything sticking out from underneath. And the reason we're using a paper clip is to hold the fabric in place and to hopefully give it that swooping hair look. I'm okay at sewing, but I don't think sewing alone will hold this thing in place the way we want it to. The paper clip, plus a little bit of stuffing on top, I think will look great. If you're one of the people trying this at home, be patient. There's no quick and easy way to shape a paper clip and stuffing in the exact way you want it. Slowly bend the paper clip, adjusting each section the way you'd like it to look, and trust me, eventually you'll have something that you like. Now that we're happy with how we've stuffed it, we're back to sewing. This part is relatively easy compared to any of the sewing we've done earlier in the video. We're just sewing it on in a straight line at the top and letting the bottom part hang down. Remember, this toy will be a display piece to be viewed from the front. Now we're moving on to the body, and don't panic, we're still using dollar store materials, this time being a pack of colored felt. And you already know what I'm gonna say at this point. Trace the shape of the body and make sure you do it on 2 layers of felt. It's the same as the Stinky Pete video. If you don't have 2 layers, you can't do anything with it. Once you've cut out this little pizza pocket shape, you're going to want to sew it together all along the perimeter, making sure once more that we leave a hole in the top so that we can slide the neck piece in and begin assembling this whole doll. We're also leaving the bottom open so that we can fill it with stuffing and really fill out the whole toy. Now that we feel that we've stuffed the toy enough, we'll cut out a little piece of blue fabric and attach it to the bottom to close off the torso. At this point, we're not going to worry about making it a perfect fit. We're just going to sew it on as is with all the extra fabric hanging off of the side. Once attached, we'll simply cut off all the excess fabric. Now enjoy this quick time lapse. And this is what I was talking about before. Now that we have fully sewed on Dolly to the blue square, we're going to cut off all the excess fabric on the edges. This of course resulting in the nice clean torso shape, capped off at the bottom, so none of the stuffing will fall out. and I think she looks wonderful so far, allowing us to move on to a more decorative part of the toy, Dolly's skirt. Let's grab some red fabric this time, and we're gonna place Dolly down and trace her torso on top of it. Very simple. We need this red fabric to fit tightly around the waist of the doll, just like a real skirt would, and we're gonna be stabbing through and cutting out this little circle that we drew. Pause. Did you guys see what happened there? We were very close to this video being messy and painful. Do not press scissors towards your hand when you're pressing it through fabric. They should always be going away from you. Zerg doesn't want you getting hurt. Now back to the video. The tricky part here is to only cut out what we drew. We don't want any extra space. Immediately, we can take our doll, put it through, and see that we've done it correctly. But fitting the skirt is only one part of the process. There's two more steps, attaching it and shaping it. Lucky for us, we're gonna kill two birds with one stone. We're only gonna sew down the skirt at particular points throughout the doll. Not only will this attach it, it'll also help give it a natural skirt look, just like it appeared in the movie. We also have to cut off all of the excess fabric. We're just making a tiny skirt, we're not making a long dress. And I like to take off a bit at a time. You can always trim off more, you can never add it back. We're almost complete. This dolly is looking great, but now we're gonna move on to the limbs, starting with her arms. I left one of the arms unfinished so you can have an idea of what I did. I simply wrapped it in the same fabric that we used for the head and the neck and sewed it on, just like we did for the neck. Repeat the step for the other arm, and you're done. Moving on to the hands. The hands are very simple. One-dimensional cutouts shaped like little mittens. That's it. This doll is so small, there is no need to make tiny hands with stuffing. It's unnecessary. As long as we get the shape down, it'll do just fine. And the good thing about wrapping these things in felt is that they can all be attached with just a little bit of thread. And that's what we did for both the arms and the hands. And I think it looks great. If you're wondering why we chose this position, we only got to see her for one frame of the movie. So I'm gonna make her in the pose that we saw her in. And let's just say, I'll need her in the film accurate position for a project coming up soon. We're now making the legs, and I consider this to be one of the easier steps. Same technique as when we made the neck. Same wooden sticks, same fabric, same sewing. And of course, we're gonna need some feet, which are going to be very straightforward for us to make. Same techniques as I've used in the whole video. I cut 2 layers thick on black fabric and I stuffed it. Over here I've got a completed leg so you have an idea of what it looks like when you put it all together. You wrap a sock around the leg, sew the foot onto the leg after you've stuffed it, and then you add your finishing touches, like the little white patches on the shoes, or even the smiley face and eyes up on the face. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you make your very own Dolly from Toy Story 1. I had such a wonderful time making this video. This is a character that I've wanted for a long time, but I could not justify spending a couple $100s on it. It just did not make sense to me. Still doesn't. And I hope that this video finds some other people out there that would like to try making these characters for themselves. Or maybe you just like to watch me make them. Regardless, my name is Cody Condor, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.